Okay, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a hump day edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock Batters Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Do business with someone you know. And Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com. You need, and if you have pain, go see my girl Crystal Poche. Matter of fact, I'm heading there right after I dropped Drew off of school. Quick session this morning. Just committed to it. Committed to getting in the gym, working out with the trainer, working out with Tevin over at Traction 3 days a week, doing Peloton, light cardio, whatever I can when I'm at home, and then going to see Crystal. Make sure I keep my body right. So, well on my way, y'all. Getting the nutrition part right too. Anyway, so good morning. Hope you're having an awesome start to your week. The World Series last night, how about the Phillies? You want to talk about a bad beat, but that was a tough way to go out last night. So Otter and his Otter locks gave us over the total of 7.5. The Phillies hit 5 home runs. 5 home runs. And the game did not go over the total. That was pretty miserable. You're also pretty miserable, no doubt, if you are an Astros fan, because, boy, the series has certainly shifted now in Philly's favor at this point. Philly up 2-1. The extra day rest allowed them to skip Syndergaard and go with the lefty. Suarez yesterday, who pitched well enough, but shoot, I mean, just the way that they bludgeoned McCullers. With the way McCullers pitched, if it does get to Game 7, there's no way you're giving McCullers the ball in Game 7 now, so that was interesting. All right, a trade deadline came and went. Saints decided to stand pat. No moves for the Saints. I think that's the right decision. Besides, as we talked about, what do they have to offer? But I've told you this for 2 weeks now. But anyway, and initial CFP rankings out. LSU number 10. We can talk about it, but like I mentioned yesterday, y'all, the initial CFP rankings are completely worthless. They're all worthless until you get to that final weekend, because you still have a month's worth of games to play and the conference championship games. So people are melting over TCU being 7. Who cares? If they go undefeated, they're getting in. Win your games. Win your games, and it will take care of itself. Tennessee and Georgia are both in the top 4. One of those 2 teams will lose this week, meaning the loser will not be in the top 4 next week. It just don't matter. Keep playing games. I don't need rankings right now. Anyway, all right. Let's see what y'all got. Brant Roban, morning, Matt. LSU lost by 6 in Tuscaloosa last year. We clearly have a better team this year. Bama lost some dudes. Death Valley at night. Shouldn't the odds be much more in our favor? So, Brant, I don't know if you're talking about like the Vegas odds. So, because point spreads are very, they are objective. Like, you have point spread value, and that's how they set lines in Vegas. And then if there is action heavy on one way, they'll adjust the line. What you've seen is pretty consistent action on both sides, which is why it's sitting at 13.5. Now, as we get closer to the game, it may move, but you're being way too emotional about it. And no, LSU last year was a talented team. They had 10 players drafted off that team. And it really doesn't matter year to year what you did. It's more about this year's team. So, I mean, look at Florida. Florida 2 years ago, or the 2020 COVID year, they had Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts and all those guys, and ended up going to the SEC championship game, had a great offense. Last year they stunk and they fired Dan Mullen. So, I mean, I think you're looking at it a little bit, if you're looking at it just from a Vegas standpoint. What I would tell you is, we've seen this Bama team struggle on the road a little bit. And this LSU team has started to hit its stride. So if LSU plays a really clean game, I think they got a great shot. Kelly Gross, Brian Wynn, Ryan Amanda Guidry, David Coslin, good morning. Trey Fisher, good morning. What's up, Fish? I was telling your story yesterday, man. I was filming TV for WBRZ Plus yesterday, and I was telling Shay Dixon the story about how Erica called you Colonel Pickering, because he was telling me a story about a guy who, at a place that we I don't want to say who, because I don't know if that person might watch. I don't want to feel bad that we didn't know this person's name. But anyway, I basically told him the story about Erica getting your name wrong. So the story lives on. Dad, good morning. Todd Harris, Craig Duga, 1 week, boot up engaged. That is very true. 1 week from today, the start of the Matt McMahon era of LSU basketball. So it's a great time of year, man. Brandon Roberts, would be nice if LSU Daily was daily again. Yes, Brandon. So what I had been doing is cutting LSU Daily at night, dropping it, and then publishing it at 6 a.m. Last week with the bye, I got off schedule a little bit. And I had intended, Monday was trick or treat. So I ran right out of studio and went to trick or treat. So I didn't. And then, I didn't even get up to studio yesterday till like 1 o'clock. It's just been a crazy busy week. And then I had intended to record last night and drop for this morning, but I had another flat tire. Somebody slashed my tires, y'all. I'll get to that in a second. But I had to jump in an Uber and get over to Shawbills to get my car. So I didn't get a chance to get in there after the show last night. So my apologies, sincerely. I will try to drop you an episode around lunchtime today. Candidly, it's probably not going to be possible because I'm going to see Crystal. Then I have to go to a HUDCO filming event. I have to do a phone interview. I got to get back to Guarantee for a Zoom interview around 12:20, which means I'm not going to even be starting prep on my show till like 1 o'clock. So probably tomorrow morning, Brandon. I'll do my dead level best for you, man. Hunter Eilers, more Matt, since we are ranked 10, if we beat Bama, would we move to 6? I don't know, Hunter, and it really doesn't matter. I mean, I think the only question that matters to LSU right now, with respect, there's two questions. Number one, if you lose to Bama and win out, do you remain top 12? You're putting yourself in position for the New Year's 6. That's one question. The other question is, if you beat Bama and win out and go 10-2 and win the SEC championship against either Georgia or Tennessee, long shot, I get it, but just playing the hypothetical. At 10-2, 11-2 SEC champion, do you get in as a 2-loss team? 2-loss teams never gotten into the college football playoff. And I'm assuming you're going to have an undefeated Big Ten champion, either Big Ten or Ohio State. I'm assuming you're going to have an undefeated ACC champion in Clemson. And you theoretically could have an undefeated Big 12 champion in TCU, although I don't think that's going to happen either, which would leave one spot. So would that go to 1-loss Georgia, 1-loss Tennessee, or 2-loss LSU, basically, or a 1-loss potential Pac-12 champion? You know what I mean? So, like, let's say Oregon runs the table, goes 11-1, beats, if it's USC or UCLA in the Pac-12 championship game, and their only loss was to Oregon, was to Georgia in week 1. Like, does 1-loss Oregon get? You know what I mean? Those are the only questions that matter that pertains to LSU. If you lose to Bama and finish 9-3, can you still finish top 12? And if you run the table, go 10-2, win the SEC, finish 11-2, can you get in the playoff as a 2-loss champion? Ray Wright, what's going on? Quentin Brakebill, what's good? Brant Roban, with the way Brian Kelly has this team trending in year 1, would you say he is a year or two ahead of schedule, especially if Jaden Daniels comes back next season? So let me put it to you this way, Brant. Let's see how they finish the season. Okay, I want to remind you, like, I had them at 6-2 right now. This isn't a flex, and because I had 2 games flipped, I had them beating Florida State, losing to Florida. But still, I had them at 6-2 at this point. And then I had them losing to Bama and beating UAB, and then splitting road games against Arkansas and A&M, which put them at 8-4, which is still very possible for this team. So, are they ahead of schedule right now? No, they're not. They're a well-coached team that I think is winning more than most people thought they would. People had them at 5 or 6 wins this year. I had them at 8. But I'm the one who said ceiling 9-3. Floor 7-5. I didn't think they'd win fewer than 7. And a lot of people are like, oh, 7. Of course they. What if they bought? Like, yeah, I mean, Ed Ogeron had 10 NFL draft picks on that team last year, and they went 6-6 because he's a terrible coach. Like, They had talent. There was no reason. They had no business losing last year to Arkansas. They had no business last year losing to UCLA. They were far more talented in those games. They had no business gagging away that home game against Auburn. Like, that should have been at least a 9-win team last year. You had a terrible coach. Chuck Sanchez, what's up, Chuck? Get it? Up, Chuck? Kelly Presley, good morning. Brian Broom, what's going on? Tim Gotro, Hunter Broadhead, Shedrick Bernard, good morning. Derek Cooper, Jason Mobile, Jonathan Martin, Juan, what's good, man? Wendell Norman, Caleb, Larry Garner, Southern Extreme, what's going on? Donovan Peterson, what's up? Let's see, Juan, this is a top 10 ranking. Is a conspiracy to benefit Alabama. Give them a top 10 win. Yes, my braid has broken, and I am Jade, a broken man. Yes, you are. Completely. There's no conspiracy whatsoever. It's just the fact that the committee can do whatever they want and then explain it later. Nicholas Cantrell, Guy Brooks, Jason H., Weston Weaver, Scott Loom. Is someone really slashing your tires? So, Scott, I think so, man. So on Friday, drop off Drew at school, and I'm going to traction to work out, and on the way, there's a guy like hanging out the window, and he's pointing at my vehicle. And I'm like, what's going on? We get up to a red light. He's like, hey man, you're losing air on your back tire, rear driver's side tire. I'm like, oh man. So anyway, I go to Shaw Bills, right there on Burbank. And they're like, man, yeah, you had a razor blade in your tire. I was like, golly, okay. Well, I must have rolled over, it's whatever. So they patch it. Yesterday, same thing. Drop Drew off, go to traction, work out. I go to WBRZ because I had to do a sports takeover on WBRZ Plus. Well, I come out and my rear passenger tire is low. I'm like, goodness. So I roll up to Guarantee. And had to do an interview, a Zoom interview on TexAgs. So I do the interview. I'm like, man, I gotta go. It's noon. I'm like, I gotta go take care of my tire. Like, I can't. If I come out of the studio at 6 o'clock tonight when the show's over, I'm just have a flat tire. So anyway, I got Johnny, who's our facility guy at Guarantee. I was like, Johnny, you got a compressor, man? I can fill this thing up. Sure enough, he did. One of those guys that's got everything right. And filling up the tire. And I'm looking at the tire, see if I see a nail or anything, and I'll be darned, there is a razor blade, there's a blade, a straight blade in my rear passenger tire. I'm like, this is unbelievable. I mean, I didn't like roll over. If a nail was pointing up, right, you roll over, it punctures your tire, that's one thing. This is a blade, like a straight blade. I mean, how do you roll over a blade and get it stuck in your tire? The only way is if it's standing up, but how would a straight blade be standing up? Like, it wouldn't. And it was perpendicular. So it's not like, it would have been like parallel with the tire as I rolled over it. So it had to have been put in there. So I think somebody slashed my tires. I just don't know where that could have been. I mean, it might have been, I guess it could have been kids in the neighborhood being stupid. It could have been someone at Guarantee, or during the day while I'm at work, someone just in the parking lot at Guarantee. Bizarre, like really bizarre. I don't really have a great explanation for it. But yeah, man. I mean, I don't know any other. I really don't know any other explanation. I mean, to have two blades, and it was just pretty clear that like one of them just leaked faster than the other did, right? Anyway. Brian Pent, good morning. Big Boy 46, Hard Knocks, good morning. Jake Geiger, good morning. Nicholas Cantrell, would an 8-4 LSU go to the Las Vegas Bowl? Maybe, Nicholas, maybe. And I think that's my push and my charge if that happens. Now, I did explain to y'all yesterday, if you were listening, how I think a 9-3 LSU goes to the Orange Bowl. So remember, if you missed this, this was the end of hour one of yesterday's AFR. So if you want to go listen to it, you can. But the Orange Bowl is ACC against either Big Ten, SEC, or Notre Dame. Well, Notre Dame's out. If Clemson goes undefeated and makes the playoff, that takes Clemson out of the Orange Bowl. Now, similar with the Sugar Bowl, right? Like if the SEC champion isn't in the Sugar Bowl, the they look for an SEC team to fill. Like last year it was Ole Miss, right? So if Clemson's not in the Orange Bowl, if they're in the playoff, that leaves an open spot in the Orange Bowl, which they would likely try to fill with either North Carolina or Wake Forest. Well, North Carolina and Wake still play each other, and Wake lost last week. So Wake is very likely not going to be in contention for that. But if you could have Wake and North Carolina lose the rest of the way, that reduces their chance of being in the New Year's Six mix. I think we assume Michigan, Ohio State, one of them is going to be in the playoff and the other is going to be in the Rose Bowl. So that would really only leave Penn State from the Big Ten, or maybe Illinois. I don't want to exclude Illinois because Illinois would certainly be a possibility as well to fill one of those Orange Bowl spots, and the other would likely be a 9-3 LSU, provided Ole Miss loses as well. Because right now Ole Miss is a one-loss team. They've still got, I think, a few losses ahead of them. So if you end up with a 9-3 LSU and 9-3 Ole Miss, LSU's got the head-to-head. I think 9-3 LSU goes to the Orange Bowl. And then you would have of Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, 2 of them in the playoff, and the third of those in the Sugar Bowl. Does that make sense? So I think there's a real possibility that LSU at 9-3 ends up in the Orange Bowl. I think it's a very probable scenario. Gulf South, let's see. If LSU plays like the last 2 games, 9-3 is extremely realistic. 10-2 is possible. I agree. If they play like the first 6 games, 8-4 is most likely. Yeah, I think so. But I would say this too. Like, I don't expect them to beat Bama. It's possible for sure. I don't expect it. But the other thing too is road games at Arkansas and at A&M. It's just tricky, man. Like, it's just hard to go on the road. Look at Georgia. Georgia goes to Missouri and nearly gets nipped. A&M went to South Carolina and lost that game. I don't know if you watched that game, but South Carolina had like less than 200 yards total offense. A&M turned the ball over a bunch in the first quarter, got down, and couldn't come all the way back. So it's just hard, bro. Ole Miss came into Baton Rouge and lost. It's just hard to go on the road and win. So, LSU's done it this year. They went to Auburn, went to Florida, and won. So it wouldn't shock me, right? Y'all, YouTube, please smash that like button if you would. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. Appreciate y'all as always for being here. Shout out to Brock. You need an orthopedist, go to Brock. Hudco Roofing, need a roof, call Hudco, hudcoroofing.com. And Restored Motions, restoredmotions.com. You have pain. Book a session with Crystal Poche over at Restored Motions. She'll bring you out of it. Jason H., let's talk about Russ Mitchell and his preseason prediction. We've done that enough, man. It's pretty funny now, though, that like every time they win, it just keeps distancing more and more from the 4-8. Lee Feinswag had him at 5-7. So Lee took some darts yesterday. Let's see, Big Boy had us finishing out the season at 7-5. I think Brian Kelly has our guys playing good football. They're ahead of schedule. I think if Daniels comes back, he could be a potential Heisman candidate. I think there's a possibility if he returns. He would be in the preseason conversation if he plays the next month like he has the past couple of weeks. You're talking about a guy that throws for 2,800 yards and 20 touchdowns, runs for another 10 to 15 touchdowns. Yeah. Shane O'Mac, good morning. Love the Saints-Colts comparison on AFR yesterday. People don't appreciate great quarterback play until it's gone. If you missed it, essentially I said, look at the Colts. Andrew Luck abruptly retired. They made it through 2019 at 7-9, and then they just kept trying to search those veteran quarterback castaways from Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz to now Matt Ryan, and look at what's happened to them. They fired their OC yesterday. They benched Matt Ryan. They are no closer to a championship. They are further away from a championship today than they were the day Andrew Luck retired. So if you're the Saints, you can keep trying this Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, fishing that pool again next year for whoever it may be. But until you draft a franchise quarterback, you're distancing yourself from a championship every day, every year. Let's go south for the record. I've not been slashing your tires. I've been working in Fort Myers the past month. Good to know. But that like stuff like that creeps Erica out. Like, because 99.999% of the people who talk big, yap, whatever behind screen names or whatever, it's just talk. It's the same people that if you met them in real life, they'd shake your hand and say, "Hey man, love the show." So I really don't. I'll tell you all a story real quick. When I was doing news radio with Ed Buggs, early 2000s, this was post 9/11 and around the time of the start of the Iraq War and everything. Ed was, if you don't know who Ed Buggs was, Ed was a conservative black talk show host. He was a newsman in Baton Rouge, D.C., Dallas, like all over the place. Insanely talented, and I got to work with Ed for 4 years. I mean, I learned so much. But Ed was so vocal and opposed at the time. It's hard to think of it now because it's 20 years removed, but everyone was on edge with Muslims post 9/11. I mean, I'm not trying to be inflammatory. I'm not doing news talk. You all know that. But Ed would be very vocal, and in a way that he could as a conservative, as a black talk show host. I mean, he could. He had more. He could say things that a lot of white hosts couldn't say, and he did. And he got a lot of threats, and so there were times where we would have to be escorted out of the building by police to our cars because we got threats. But I remember him always saying, "It's not the guy that's going to call and threaten, or it's the guy who's going to sit across the street in the parking lot and not say anything that the quiet guy that you got to worry about." So anyway, weird. I don't know why. Anyway, the slashing tires thing. But anyway, that's the thing. Like I told you, Erica sometimes gets a little spooked whenever people say stuff like that. But Eric Gullett, what's up, man? Good morning. Todd Harris, keep improving each week. LSU has a chance. Just play clean, see what happens. Craig Straub, LSU 10. Wow, looks like the board finally giving us some clout. It doesn't matter. I mean, it just doesn't. It's the first week. It just doesn't matter. I mean, like everyone melting right now that TCU is 7th. Georgia and Tennessee play this week. One of them is going to lose. It just doesn't matter. Like there's a month of games to play and conference championship weekend. There's just no point at all in releasing rankings right now. None. Craig Straub, go Pels. Yeah, man. Play the Lakers tonight. Big opportunity for the Pels. And I don't say that lightly. Remember, the Pels, just to file this away, as part of the Anthony Davis trade, yes, they're still reaping the benefits. The Pels have the option of a pick swap with the Lakers this year. Meaning if the Lakers pick is higher than the Pelicans can swap that pick. So if the Lakers bomb and end up in the lottery again, and the Pelicans are in the playoffs, the Pelicans will swap first rounders with the Lakers. So, and it doesn't even have to be top 10. Like it's not a top 10 protected deal. It's like the Pelicans just swap their first round pick with the Lakers this year. So cheer against the Lakers all year. Trey Potan, Jeremy Sagely, Chase Pellegrin, Larry Freeman, Rode Yule, good morning. Clemson is losing in South Bend Saturday. Rode, I disagree with you completely. Not only do I think Clemson wins, I think Clemson wins and covers. Notre Dame is not good, and they have been a bad team at home this year as well. They lost at home to Marshall. They lost at home to a bad Stanford team. They were lucky to beat Cal. Nah, man. Clemson is beating Notre Dame. Not only are they winning, they're winning big in South Bend. Bingo, Craig. Got to stop putting so much stock in the polls. The only ones that matter are right before the playoffs. True. Truax, what's up, man? Deborah Coward. Skip, what's good? Good things on campus. Basketball is about to start. Football is rolling. Baseball is stacked. Indeed. Women's basketball as well. Kim Mulkey's got that team ready to roll. Tim Forshey, morning Scone. At the Miami International Airport. Heading home, watching morning Scone. Look forward to tonight's Scone and Tea. Yeah, man, T-Bob and I tonight, Oliver Twist, 7 to 8 p.m. Hope to see y'all there. A couple more. Robbie White, what's up? Would the BCS system have been just as good, maybe better than the committee? Robbie, I completely agree with you. I've said that for years, that I think they should just use the BCS formula to determine the top 4. For all the angst that people had about the BCS, it got it right. I don't know that there's any exception. Like in 04, I know Auburn people were upset they were undefeated and didn't get in, but USC and Oklahoma was the right championship game. The problem was the system that only allowed 2 to play for it. But yeah, the BCS rankings, they got the top 2 right every year. All right. Kenneth Kyle, Matt, before you go on other people's shows, do they send you questions or you go in blind? No, nobody sends me questions. Just go in. John Hilburn, good morning. Matthew Gardner, if we beat Bama and the students rush, what type of fine are we up to? I think they're all 250 now. I think it accelerates to 250, and then it's 250 in perpetuity every time you rush. Forrest Wilkinson, Saints have the look of a team that needs to be rebuilt, but would a division title change that thought process? I don't think so, Forrest, because the division could flip next year, and you could. I mean, it's just look at what happens potentially year to year. I mean, the NFC East went from the NFC least to the best division in football right now. Tyler Alexander, good morning. Brian Wynn, Matt, who do you think are the leading candidates for Auburn job? Everybody, everything I hear from people at Auburn is Kiffin, Matt Rule, Dion. Who's the fourth one that they mentioned? Oh, Hugh Freeze, but Hugh Freeze feels like a long shot. Ryan, Amanda Gidry, appreciate y'all. All right, it's 8 o'clock, y'all. I got to get going. Brett DeGrow, what's up? Chance Babin, Sean Z, Alan Black, Weston Weaver. Got a guy that does residential commercial cameras if you need a number. Hope you catch the tire slasher. I just don't know where. Like, I have my car's in my garage, so I don't think it's at my house. I did have the car out front during trick or treat. So maybe somebody walked by yesterday and stuck up a blade in one of my tires, but that wouldn't explain the tire being flat from Friday, unless if it's just coincidence that I had a flat tire on Friday and then again today. H.D. Williams, good morning from Pittsburgh. All right, Eddie Sanford, Clemson struggled a lot in their games against less than stellar competition. That's not true, Eddie. Clemson this year has looked like Clemson. I think it's a little recency bias because we watched the Syracuse game where they struggled for a half and replaced DJU, but Clemson has rolled this year. The closest game they played was the Score Fest against Wake, but look at their other scores, man. They rolled Georgia Tech, Furman, Louisiana Tech. The Wake Forest game was 51-45, but they scored 51 on the road. They suffocated NC State 30-20. That game was not close. They blew out Boston College. They played at Florida State, won 34-28 in a game that wasn't really that close. And then Syracuse, 27-21. I mean, they have looked more like Clemson this year. I get it, the schedule's what it is, but the ACC is not very good. But last week was kind of the one-off, and they've struggled with Syracuse in years. But mark my words, this might even go down as my lock of the week. Clemson not only wins but covers against Notre Dame this weekend. What's the line in that? If that line's under 4, it's 3.5. That will be my lock of the week. Clemson winning and covering against Notre Dame. That will be my lock this week. All right, I gotta go. It's 8:02. All right, y'all have an awesome day. Thank you as always so much for watching. Please, YouTube, smash that like button. Facebook, please, and subscribe up to the channel. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. As always, shout out to Brock. If you need an orthopedist, go to Brock. HUDCO Roofing, love to give you a free, no obligation roofing inspection. HUDCOroofing.com and Restored Motions. If you have pain, book a session with Crystal Poche. RestoredMotions.com. All right, have an awesome day. We'll see you for AFR3. Scone and T tonight. Peace.